Alright, we're at the stage here where we're going to put these LED panel LEDs into these holes right here. What I plan on doing is I put those in, and then I'm going to use connectors with the 2-hole connectors. Here's a larger set. These are 16 holes. I use just a 2-hole connector, and I'll be able to slide those on and off of that. So these are pretty basic LEDs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the long side, the anode side, with an orange marking pen, and then cut those off to the correct length and slide them in. Then that way I know which side to put the connector on. I'm going to use one of these pins I picked up at the local Menards to mark it. Get it out there just a little bit. And since this is a two-hand job, I'll go ahead and mark it and show you what it looks like after I get done. Okay, here's what they look like after they've been marked. I'll go ahead and clip the leads to the proper length and push them into the front of the front panel. Okay, I have the LEDs all placed in the front panel. Boy, they really pushed in there real tight, so I hope I don't have to bring them out. And then, hopefully you can see here, I set all the anodes pointing in the same direction, and this is how my connector will just slide on there, like that. So these will go to a circuit board that I have a connector on with the drop down resistor so that they're light, and then below there you can see the momentary push button wires that I have to wire up. Here we are on the final parts of the mechanical build of the power management unit. I've consolidated some of the stuff from the breadboard onto my project board here, and then I've added a few 3 more circuits. As you can see here, up here along this line right here, I've got a wire going to the negative side of the power supply, the 5-volt power supply. This side I got a positive bus going along there. This part here was on the previous breadboard. This is basically the circuit here that that drives or powers the LCD, and we have a I believe it's a 10K potentiometer there that we can use to change the contrast on the LCD. Back here's the one of the pins that goes to the LCD, and then down here we have some additional contacts for hooking up some negative and positive sides of the LCD. Kind of sandwiched in here, I've got my voltage divider here for the so that the system can measure the output voltage of the power supply. Then I've got right here are the circuits for the momentary switches, which I've basically just taken off of the digital I/O button information from their Arduino website. I have the links to that on the blog. But basically all we're going to do is we come off of we have our momentary switch in there. We're feeding it with the positive voltage. When it's pressed, it's going to go through a 10K resistor to ground to drop that down, and then up here on one of the digital pins, it'll sense that, and then we'll be able to do something in code to turn the LEDs on. So that's essentially what we have here. Is we've got, you know, our connections for the focus there. We got our connections in here for the push button switches, and then the pin that goes to the Arduino, and obviously up here this is the resistor going to the ground. The next four over here are the circuits for turning on and off the LED. And again, I pulled that off of the Arduino website. It's just the blink code. And again, basically all we're doing is we're going to ground, and then we're have the LED, you know, a pin for the LED, or two pins for the LED, and then one pin for that goes to the Arduino board. And you know, we're loading the LED down. I think those are 220 ohm resistors. Now the last circuit I have here, I pulled off of Open Energy Monitor.org, and that circuit here, and again I have links to that. That circuit here is going to connect up to our sense controller, and I'll show you that in just a second. But basically we've got a circuit here with a capacitor and another voltage divider to drop the voltage. The output voltage of the coil is like 2.2 volts, and we have to set that up so that the CT sensor, the Arduino, can read that. So there's a voltage divider in there. Then we also have to have a little bit of a load resistor on there, and then a capacitor is on there, so that we only see 1/2 of the voltage, since it'll be reading the AC side of the voltage. So that's where we are. We're gonna, next step, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put this into the back into the case, and I'm gonna use our pin connectors and stuff like that we got from Pololu to go ahead and connect all this stuff up. And then once we get that done, then the last part of this will be to go ahead and finish writing the code for all this and putting it in, which again, when we get all done with this, I'll put up on the blog with all the interconnections and everything. Here I have the wiring harnesses all put on my switches, or put the connector housings on the ends of them when I make sure where everything's going to be plugged into. Makes it a little bit easier tying it all together like that. Okay, here's our current sensor. It's got a plug on it like this that only has two cables. It doesn't use the middle one there. So we're going to cut, I don't need this much cable, we're going to cut it off about in half, and then I'll just put a connector on it so I can plug it right into our board. Here we have the final wiring. It looks like a mess, but it actually is better than it was. You can see I put connector housings on everything. I have that over the live wire, the current sense, and I've tied some of the wires together and made kind of a semi-wiring harness on it. So the next step is to finish up the programming. I'll start on LED indicators and the buttons first, and then I'll do the current sense. Things were going along pretty good. Then I found out this voltage divider network here. When I moved it over from the breadboard over this, I wasn't thinking, and that's actually a voltage divider on the 5-volt side, not the 12-volt side. So I'm going to have to take a couple of these resistors out, put them out here, and then hook them up to the 12-volt side. So I'll do that, put it back in, we'll see what happens. Finally have our power management unit a stage where I'm going to consider it complete for now. I have the display reading fairly accurately. We've got our 4 push button switches on the front of it set up, so with the momentary switches, so you can shut the ports off, turn them back on. This is what it looks like in the inside. Kind of a mess of wires, but I've got it all wired up, and I kind of have a halfway decent makeshift wiring harness set up. You can see the relay board down there. It's got LEDs on it too, so that you can see as I turn them on and turn them off. Right there's the 5-volt power supply, and underneath those wires are the voltage divider networks and the resistors for the push buttons and LEDs, and then there's the Ethernet card, Ethernet shield on top of the Arduino. So we have that done. I'm going to clean up the wiring diagram, and I'll get that up on the blog here in a few days, and then I'll also have the code up in a few days. Okay, here's the web page unit on this. As you can see, when I have it hooked up, it shows me the same information that's shown on the LCD screen. I click on these, I can shut off each port and turn them back on. Okay, I'll go ahead and show you this. I'm remotely turning off the ports. One of the other things that I've done on the web page is I went ahead and put a button on there that will shut all the ports off at once. So that's about all where we're at. I think I'm going to stop working on this project for now. Later on I'll probably add some decals to it, and the other thing that I need to do on the programming is right now the IP address is hard coded into the unit. I want to set it up so it'll pull a IP address off of DHCP and then allow you to set a IP address. The other thing that I need to do is add some security to it, so that you have to log in to actually make changes. But I'm going to leave that for a later date, or go back through the code and clean it up a little bit later. If somebody else comes along and sees the code and they can do that, that would be great. So that's it for this episode, and probably for a while on the power management unit. We'll move on to some of our other projects that we're doing. So for now, signing off, it's KB0ASQ.